On my recent videos, I showed how to set up an LXD container on a remote system in your home, and I got this far, which is pretty darn good. I can log in real easily with a double click from an icon from the desktop. However, the place where I've done similar work, which is actually on an instance of LXD container on my Windows desktop, I have a few more things going on, such as the Python virtual env and some better color coding of the prompt. And I want to get this more into parity with this. And to do that, we start out with the trick that it takes to install this, right? This is all delivered through a wonderful install script, which can be found at mikelev.in/ux, which will auto forward you to the script that does the install. Now it's going to forward you to the .bat version, so that doesn't really cover the lovely follow-up instructions on how to configure a system that I like to do. So I changed this .bat, which is the early phase of the install process, to .sh, which is the later phase of the install process. You can see it's a similar but different file, also out on my GitHub. And we will take care of such problems as the fact that this clearly is in a Python virtual env. And when we run Python, we get a wonderful new version, 3.10.8. And we're trying to get that over here. So if we type Python over here, we don't even get a Python, right? This is one of those LXD launched images, so it's very stripped down. The images that are provided by Ubuntu as a starting point, they're very stripped down, as they probably well should be. So I just go look down in this .sh file to where things sort of start to get interesting, which is right here. This is the add apt repository of the Dead Snakes package library. So we can do that. Oh, add apt repository not even found. So this is an older version that doesn't have even those tools. So that's something like common that comes before this. I used to have that here. It's a part of something. It's a part of something common, so I can pretty much find it quick through Google. The browser's here. Oh, it searched on too much of it. It was in my copy buffer. All we want is that, because this is part of an apt install. There it is. Software properties common. All right, so that's what we need. Sudo apt install software properties common. I used to think this was the GNU compiling common toolchain stuff. I've learned since it's a bunch of other stuff that basically makes dependency management easier with the pip system, such as giving you the tools I'm about to use. The tool I'm about to use, add apt repository, so you don't have to edit files directly or do things in quite the old school way that you used to have to. I usually like a smaller font when it's doing that, so it doesn't line wrap quite as much, so you can read what it's installing as it goes. That is an awful lot to install for that common properties thing, right? Look at everything. Wow. All right, so with that done, that other command that it wasn't able to do before, add apt repository ppa dead snakes /ppa -yes, error must run as root. So we just put a sudo in front of that. right, once that's done, Figlet, I don't worry about that later. Build essential. I guess the build essential stuff is necessary. Talk about thinking it was the GNU build stuff. There it is. Of course, you have to sudo these. Let's get a preview of what next is coming up. Yeah, have to install Python 3.10. Of course, again, we'll have to sudo that. Maybe I'll make it just full screen with a bigger font now. We don't really need to see this one. This is the one we're trying to emulate. So you remember Python virtual env and the lovely color-coded prompt. So we'll get rid of that, make this one bigger font so it's nicer to look at in the video. So a bunch of dependency and requirement stuff were those first two things, right? So the next one is in my copy buffer. I'll do a clear sudo install Python. It's 3.10 as it were. And probably 3.10.8 since that's the latest and since I can see that here. All right. Now we do the same to get the, what do they call it? The venv, virtual environment software, sudo that. So we now have both Python 3.10.8 and venv. We will clean up after ourselves. The most important step, but it will remove any unused files. And we can, let's see, skip over a lot of this because it's very context sensitive to the kind of server build I'm doing there. But we do want, creating the virtual env. Oh yeah, it's created from inside of there. So our commands are simply kind of embedded in here. Right, full paths to where the now present Python 3.10 binary is, forcing it to use its venv and to create a py310 directory here. So clear ls, this is the before, there's only the data directory, which is good. I forgot to check that in the vids, but mapping in a shared location worked from the QNAP software. So this should build a virtual environment of venv with all the Python executables and all the pip installs isolated into a directory by that name, which will be plopped here into this same location because that's where they are. That's where we are. So we do an ls. You can see now Python 3.10 is there as well. All right. So we don't need to do any of that. Oh yeah, getting a bash profile. This is cool. Bash prompt, yeah. All right, I think this is kind of reasonable stuff. So I can just let it be seen here through the web browser. I can do it this different way. So copy, new tab, paste. This is the bash profile I want to put in place. So I will make their repos. It's not going to be in common with the other repos around here, all my other systems. And then I am going to so in this location we can, it doesn't have to be sudoed in this case, but this is a bash profile I'm making. It's going to end up CDing into that repos directory I just created. And then there's some other ones. We're done with this one. We can close that tab. This next one here is the bash prompt, which does that nifty color coding. And then I believe that should be it when this is done. I can open a new tab, paste that there. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. I wanted the exact URL. I copied the wrong one. This is the one I should have copied. And paste that in here. There's a file. Control-Alt, Control-C, vim.bash prompt. I for insert, paste it all in. Oops, that is not what I meant to paste in. I might not have this in my copy buffer, and I don't think I did. There it is. Escape : WQ. Now I should be able to exit, go back into it, and a lot of these innovations should just be active. It should put me into the virtual env. There it is, Pi310. See that? And when I type Python, it should be a nice, very recent version, and it should find it. And I can exit out like that. And I can, you know, there's no Git repos actually in here, so I can't cd in to see the full glory color coding where the repo branch turns to purple. But you can actually see the much better color coding than it used to be. So that's mission accomplished there. I've got now a quick login LXD container of Linux, Ubuntu 20.04. That's in parity with what's on my local laptop. Whoops, that's not the local laptop one. Well, it is. It's just WSL. This is the native WSL version. It's really nuts. But I have a native WSL version of Linux going for using Vim and doing my terminal stuff. And then I have another one here, which is running under not that instance of WSL, but a different one. So I have WSL 20.04 present for journaling, and WSL 18.04 present for LXD hosting, which is hosting this 20.04 version, with which is now in parity with this. Okay, so there's a lot going on. It's sometimes tough to follow, but it's maybe a little easier to tell when you type exit from here, and then you have to exit again, right? That first exit was from the LXD container. The second one is from the native WSL instance. So once again, just to make that understood, LSB underscore release all 20.04. LSB release all 20.04. Exit. LSB release all 18.04. Exit. Poof, it's gone. Here, exit. Poof, it's gone. So it starts to give you some idea of the, I guess, what's hosting what of my environment, but I have two very equivalent locations now where I can start to develop stuff locally on my laptop, actually starting out, believe it or not, in Jupyter Lab, and then gradually moving things as they evolve and develop over to a .py file using nbdev. That video should come next. And from there, running in a very server type way, even on my local machine, I can move it to a very server-like way on a actual server. So that's where we're going. See you soon.